Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in again. Yes, we're doing another one of these. You probably expected it for quite a while though. Undertale, a 2015 RPG by the one-man team of Toby Radiation Fox from the Starman.net forums. Undertale released to massive acclaim and sent shockwaves through the medium. It's the little indie game that cooled. It won its players over with its quirky, charming characters, its heart-wrenching storyline, and its eclectic mix of RPG and shoot-'em-up mechanics. Part Murder with Skeletons, part Shin Megami Tensei, and part Toho Project, Undertale wears its heart on its sleeve and will reach to the deepest reaches of your soul. Wanna know why? Wanna find out? Part 1. Murder 3 with Skeletons. Undertale started in the Starman.net forums after its creator published the infamous Earthbound Halloween hack. You see, there's a small subsection in the forums for people who are very passionate about ROM hacking, which is the ability to convert a previously released game for an old game console into a new experience. But anyway, the PK hack tooling was created back in the day. This allows people to edit Earthbound, the USA version of Mother 2, to add whatever content they see fit. Out of this, the Earthbound Halloween hack was created in 2008, an edgy and profanity-laden version of Earthbound where you kill Doctor and Donuts, with a primitive version of Megalovania in tow. Out of his experiences with RPG design, Toby decided to create Undertale in 2013. The game was developed over 32 months and financed through Kickstarter, an original scene of the game and a short demo released to promote it. The main premise of the game was, what if nobody had to die? Toby recalls that he's always felt that RPGs are a little bit of a bloodbath, in the sense that the heroes go around killing endless prey for profit. Need to level up? Well, I guess we're just gonna extinguish 3 species in the game world. It's almost sadistic when you think about it, since in theory the player behind the screen is doing it for fun. So he wondered if it was possible to create an RPG which eschewed the need to kill people while still providing a compelling experience. Inspired by Shin Megami Tensei and how it allows you to talk and negotiate with enemy characters, he set off to the task. Its resemblance to other games is also palpable. The game world, pixel art, and general non sequitur take a page off of the Mother series. And the music, composed and performed completely by Toby on his own by the way, sounds right off of the Toho series. Not to mention, of course, the fact that there's bullet hell stages. The game massively overshot its modest Kickstarter goal of $5,000. It displayed tremendous innovation in RPGs, and it had a charming meta tone, unlike anything else in the market. The turn-based battles in the game progress as a series of shoot-'em-up stages, where you navigate waves of bullets shot by your enemy towards your soul, represented by a little pixelated heart inside of a black box. The game is a beautiful accident in many ways. The crazy work of an absolute polymath, its likeliness to exist infinitesimal. It's also humble to the core. The script reads like a Tumblr post, grammar and all. The battle scenes are in monochrome. Megalovania was composed in 20 minutes using free samples that I downloaded online, I quote, according to Toby. The graphics have clipping issues and look hastily put together. The game world is tiny, the puzzles are simplistic at best. Its RPG mechanics are sort of just a coat of paint that's not even fully dry, and all around you can do a single run of the game in around 8 hours. Toby was a hobbyist when he created it, so he used a simple engine like Game Maker. The graphics are pixel art because it's easier to draw, and the battles are monochrome because it's hard to draw graphics with multiple colors in his own words. The animation is mostly flash-style twinning instead of keyframes. But all of this is by design. Undertale is more than the sum of its parts. Way more. Goes to show, it's possible to convey strong emotions with simple pixel art. And if you put something out there which comes from the bottom of your heart, people will embrace it. So I remember feeling pretty strange about the game originally. I was like, oh, what kind of game is this? This game seems like Tumblr, the video game. This game, like, is it something about furry culture? Is something about, is it an Earthbound RPG? Like, what is it about? And I remember being super weirded out at the monochrome battle screen. But once it sort of clicked on me, like, I definitely had to check it out, because I like games that take risks like this one, right? Part 2. What if nobody had to die? Undertale has a very simple plot. Once upon a time, there were two kinds of beings: humans and monsters. After an ancient war between both races, all of the monsters were sealed underground by the humans, behind a barrier created with a magical spell. Then, one day, a child who was playing in a cave in Mount Ebot fell down into the underground by accident onto a bed of golden flowers, and thus, they begin to return to the surface. You control this fallen child as they progress in the underworld. Soon enough, you run into a flower friend, Flowey, who teaches you how to play the game. However, the jig is up soon enough. Flowey is shown to be a vicious, bloodthirsty killer, hell-bent on destroying every single human who comes across his path, and he's just about to kill you. Toriel, guardian of the runes and archetypal mother figure, saves you from Flowey's schemes and guides you through the runes in what is effectively the tutorial, get it? Section of the game. The game literally handholds you through it. Toriel teaches you that it is possible to solve conflicts in the world of Undertale by means other than violence, through the power of acting. Acting allows you to satisfy monsters instead of fighting them, at which point you can spare them. You can also spare monsters if you bring them close to 0 HP and then you decide not to kill them. The indicator in both cases being that their name turns to yellow. So notice the details. What I really like about the game is that it is super symbolic. There's a lot of hidden symbolism of all kinds. For example, Toriel is Toriel. El is the Hebrew suffix to indicate Elohim, right? Yellow has a meaning in the game, which we'll explore later. And the game just bombards you with a lot of stuff, blink and you miss it kind of style. Strangely, it seems that Toriel has already been through this more than once. When you arrive at her home, she seems to already have a complete curriculum designed for the education of a human child, and a vacant, completely furnished room. Once you make her face the fact that you wish to leave the ruins and not to live under her tutelage, she begrudgingly fights you in combat, asking you to prove yourself, not to have this happen again, she says. So at this point, you will get two options on what to do. You can either decide to kill Toriel, or you can decide to try to act, convince her to let you go peacefully. This is the first dilemma that you're gonna be faced with in the game. The game will completely switch directions depending on whether you kill her or whether you spare her. Now, it is very well known that Undertale has three routes: the true Pacifist route, the neutral route, and the Genocide route. Your decisions while playing Undertale will impact which route you take. If you manage to get through the game, never killing not even one enemy, by this enemy not even a grunt, and if you're at least on your second run of the game, by the way, you will see the Pacifist route. If you miss certain side quests in the game, like dating the game's bosses, or if you kill at least one enemy, you will see the neutral route. Finally, if you decide to listen to Flowey, cave into his demands, and start killing every monster in the underground, you will see the worst ending in the game. From here onward, after you're out of the ruins, the underground is yours to explore. Through this, the game will reveal some interesting backstory about the monster war and the mythology that came from it. Most interestingly, the legend of the Delta Rune, an anagram for Undertale, as you may have already figured out. The Delta Rune is the most important symbol among Monster King, a figure of a winged creature and three triangles, which is said to represent a prophecy that the monsters have told since times immemorial about their salvation from the human race. The monsters tell of the advent of a powerful liberating angel who will guide them to freedom from the underground, which is known as the Angel's Heaven. This angel is worshipped as a god among monster kind. What about the three triangles underneath the figure though? But anyway, among all of the characters that you will meet in the game, the most important characters are the boss monsters. Monsters with a stronger soul than the regular monster grunts. If you play your cards right, they will become your friends and will join you in your adventure. Now, the symbolism keeps coming. So, Monster souls are represented by white hearts, right? And white hearts are implied to be made of dust, because when you defeat a monster, when you defeat a grunt, they just fizzle away. Anyway, but when you fight a boss monster though, their soul turns to a different color, indicating that they have something different in their souls. What is this? It's a certain virtue of a certain kind. Part of the Undertale and Deltarune mythology revolves around us. These characters are Toriel, the kind mother figure guarding the ruins, who you already met. A woman who never leaves her home, who wants you locked in and educated at home eating pie. Sans, a weird, slobby, lazy, animated skeleton with no work ethic, addicted to jokes, who for some reason talks exclusively Comic Sans. He likes wearing hoodies and eating fast food. He seems to not have a single care in the world and to kind of be coasting by. However, strangely enough, he seems to have powers of teleportation and telekinesis, and he may or may not know something about the true nature of the world that every other monster in the world is oblivious to. Papyrus, Sans' little brother, a silly, queer skeleton desperate for love and affection, who will do anything to capture a human to prove himself worthy of the ranks of the royal army. And yes, for some reason he speaks in Papyrus, who is friends with Undyne, the legendary armored-clad leader of the monster army, who will stop at nothing to kill our humans who descend into the underworld to harvest their souls for Asgore. Alphys, an insecure otaku dinosaur lizard with social anxiety, who is designed, by the way, to reflect the Undertale audience, so you feel a little bit self-aware, who has a crush on Undyne for some reason. Head of the royal scientists, in charge of the underground energy core, she has a backstory that haunts her. Metaton, a super powerful robot AI created by Alphys, who is a flamboyant, super stealth female ghost who now inhabits the body of a male robot, since there's ghost characters in the world of Undertale who need to inhabit a body, and who entertains the underground as no one else can. There's another bit of symbolism in this. The transsexuality allegory, of course, being obvious. Besides this, you have the idea that Metaton is a reference to Metatron, a biblical angel. Next, there's Asgore, the archetypal wounded king, who forever bears the weight of his sins against humanity. When you originally meet Toriel, she warns you about him because he has killed 6 human children. He seeks redemption through the liberation of the monsters to get back with his divorced wife Toriel, mother of his defunct child. You also meet the ghost characters Napstablook, Hapstablook, and Matstablook, who are special characters because they're naturally incorporeal, so they need to find a body to inhabit. Otherwise, living their melancholic lives in search of purpose in what is, I believe, again, another reference to the game's Tumblr very online audience. Napstablook is your archetypal doomer, a melancholic ghost lurking around message boards listening to pirated music. Hapstablook tries to make the most of things by becoming friends with Alphys, who helps her transition into a male body to become Metaton. And Matstablook is angry at the world and decides to live his life in spite in the dumb, inhabiting the body of a training dummy. Another unnamed ghost lives in the underground and is introduced as the first training dummy, but their personality is not really elaborated upon. You will also find Miss Moffat, a spider gothic Lolita character with Oyo-sama demeanor, who loves money, baking, and trapping people in her web to eat them. And there's also dogs that like to do things. Toby is present in the game world himself as the annoying dog, because he has this little meta thing where, so you know, reality and the video game are one and the same. So he refuses to go in public unless if it is under this persona of the annoying dog. And I find that little detail very endearing, you know. Part 3. The Neuter Route. The game is divided by sections. Snowding, Waterfall, Hotland, and the Energy Core and the Royal Castle, leading to the barrier. Every section of the game will present you with a few puzzles, which are there more as meta commentary on RPG design and for funsies rather than actually being puzzles, by the way. And several boss encounters, in which again you will always get a choice to either kill the bosses or to make friends with them. Every boss battle will have a unique spin on it. Some battles will become a rhythm game, others will become a platformer, or a shoot-em-up, even a game of Frogger. I love playing through each of these scenarios because they keep the game fresh and fun, and no idea ever really overstays its welcome. When the game clicked with me was around the Moffat section, when I noticed that, oh, so this is Frogger now, and I was like, Oh, so this game is really cool. It's doing something very unique, right? Each boss monster battle turns your heart a different color, which depends on the strongest quality of your personality. Cyan for patience, purple for perseverance, blue for integrity, green for kindness, yellow for justice, orange for bravery, and red for determination. Now, it is revealed that there's been 6 previous children who fell to the underground, who have tried to escape through the barrier. All of them met their demise at the hands of Asgore, who needs the power of 7 human souls to use them in a spell to break the monster barrier. The existence of the 6 children is never explored in depth, so we don't really know who they are, but we know that their souls are one of every color. Human and monster souls, by the way, are shown to be different, with a balance of power lopsided in favor of the humans. The power of a human soul is equivalent to all of the monster souls put together. Thus, only humans can cross the barrier, because the soul of a monster collapses if they go through the barrier. And why are human souls stronger than monster souls? Because humans are shown to have a trait which monsters don't possess. Determination. Determination is a very important value personally. So when I realized that this game had this angle, I was pleasantly surprised. Determination, I think, is the soul, the power behind the indomitable human spirit in the world. And it's something that it's personally gotten me through a lot of really nasty stuff in life. Determination is what allows you to save in the world of Undertale. If you save at a certain save point, you can revive from death using your determination, or determination. Get it? Notice the beginning of a strange correspondence between the aspects of the lore and the things that happen in the actual world of Undertale, as if the game was inexplicably connected to the fact that it's a video game. It is implied, perhaps, that the only monsters who have a semblance of determination are Undyne and Flowey, but is their determination greater than the determination of a human? It isn't. The importance of determination is explored at the end of the neutral route. Once you reach Asgore, Flowey will take over by force and kill them. In what seems right out of Gigas' mindfuck, flashing end battle in Earthbound, he will transform into a photorealistic full-script shoot-em-up and boss sprite, which completely clashes with the bitmap style that the rest of the game has, inciting a certain feeling of disgust and shock. In the climax of this battle, Flowey will start actually manipulating your save files emulator style, loading them once over and over again to render you hopeless and to keep you in eternal torture. Yet, lo and behold, the other 6 human souls manifest and impose themselves against Flowey. They free the human by Deus Ex Machina from his clutches. Again, it seems that some of the characters, for example Flowey, are aware of the fact that they're inside of a video game. But why is this? After this battle, you will get the option to either kill Flowey or spare him, but whichever option you take pretty much won't matter, because, you know, you just reached the end of the game, you can just reset it. Part 4. The true Pacifist route. This is when you try to play the game in a fully pacifist manner. Pacifist run is the longest one in the game, the most satisfying one, and also the true canonical ending to the game. It involves exploring everything in the game, doing every possible side quest, not killing a single enemy in the world. The game doesn't actually make this difficult, and if you're good at shoot 'em ups, you should be able to handle it, but it has to be your second run of the game. Your first run will always be the neutral ending. In this route, you will get to date Papyrus, Alphys, and Undyne. These experiences are less for your romantic progress and more to see their character development. You will also get to date Undyne in the most fiery cookout that you will ever imagine. This is my favorite scene in the game because I love how anime it is. Anime is real. Additionally, there's a complete area which is unplayable in other routes, the true laboratory, which sheds more light in regards to the plot. It is revealed that the royal scientists were tasked with studying the mortality of monster kind in an attempt to make them immortal. Out of these studies, they discovered determination. Alphys found out that when monsters are on their deathbed, they can have their determination extracted with a certain mechanism she has, which was created by a mysterious, as of yet unrevealed character, and their determination can be extracted with this and implanted into objects to allow them to continue to live on. She tries this with a bunch of monsters of senile age, but the experiments go wrong, and monsters fuse their bodies and souls together. When you visit the lab, you meet hideous amalgams of monsters, designed with clever recompilation of behaviors and designs of monsters you've seen before. This part of the game feels like a fever dream, or like playing through an unfinished section of the game, through something you weren't meant to see. By uncovering the true lab, you help Alphys come to her senses and face the consequences of her actions. I love the presentation of this game, and I consider it to be incredibly bold game direction. Once you clear the true laboratory and meet Asgore, in a very emotive sequence, the monsters will reveal the true backstory of the game. Before you, there was another human child, who is the actual player sitting behind the screen. You, the fallen human who you named at the beginning. This human child was adopted by the royal family, Asgore, Toriel, and their as of yet unknown child, Asriel, and raised as their own. Unfortunately, at some point the child fell ill of a mysterious disease, so Asriel and the child crossed the barrier, since the human was able to break the barrier with the power of their soul. However, when the humans on the surface saw what appeared to be the murder of the fallen child, Asriel was mortally wounded by the humans. Then, he died when he returned to the underground. The royal family mourned his death by having Alphys implant his soul into a yellow flower, and Asgore swore revenge on the humans, seeking to collect 7 human souls to break the barrier and free the monsters from the underground. That flower, of course, became Flowey, who now has the wicked, corrupted soul of Asriel, and is hellbent on revenge and devoid of all compassion. The climax of this route comes once you try to cross the barrier again. All the monsters that you befriended along the way will come together to defend you against Asgore's murdering intents. Unknowingly though, you play right into Flowey's schemes. He takes all of the souls of all of the monsters in the underground and fuses them into one, the reincarnation of Asriel Dreamer, which is an anagram for serial murderer, by the way. An epic fight unfolds between the human child and Asriel, where the child eventually becomes stun-locked. But since humans possess determination, the human exercises their ability to save their friends from within Asriel's soul. Asriel manages to kill the human, but by sheer force of determination, they don't die. Your soul breaks, but then refuse to die, or refuse to die. Get it? The human then starts remembering Asriel of his good times with the first human, knowledge of whom they have regained now. This leads Asriel to tears, and to eventually desist killing you, what is one of the most emotive moments that I've ever seen in games. The human you control is revealed to be named Friskolladong, and he's unrelated to Asriel's sibling, manages to break the barrier with the collection of all of the human souls, and leads the monsters back into the surface, which they reintegrate into the human world. But there's a really beautiful sense of metaphor in all of this. So, the world of Undertale, so it has a lot of things that are intrinsically connected to that world. But then, what happens if you reset the game though? You're done with the game, maybe you want to run it again. Does that actually erase the memories of all of the characters there? Why do the characters inside of the game, or at least one certain character, why is he aware of that he's inside of a game? How does this affect things? How does this affect him? Part 5. The Genocide Route. What if you decide to take the dark path? You will receive the genocide ending. It makes your stomach churn, and it's horrible to play through it, but this route sheds additional light on the plot. The key to getting this route is to kill every single monster in the game, even in the tutorial, even when you are actually being compelled not to kill people. At some points, this will literally mean that you have to keep wandering around in a certain area, in circles, killing creatures over and over, just mashing A mindlessly. So, of course, this is sort of commentary on RPG grinding, which is what, you have to do most of the time when you're playing an RPG to develop your stats. As you kill monsters, this will increase a stat that the game keeps record of, your love. At the end of the route, this is revealed to mean level of violence instead of love, as you may have thought. And as if with many other things, so the game is trying to sort of, to compel you, right? To trying to comment on things. What kind of heartless monster are you? That you went around killing monsters just to have fun. Why do you have this level of violence, right? It does it kind of in a childish way, in a kind of ham-fisted way, but I still appreciate what it's trying to get at. Once you wander around in a certain section of the game, and grind through enough monsters, you will see "but nobody came" when random battles trigger. That means that it's time for you to move on to the next one and to clear it out. After you see this message in the first section, you will start getting messages conveyed to you by a mysterious voice speaking in red when you use save points. This mysterious voice will tell you how many creatures are left in the current area of the game to grind through. This evil internal voice will also interject with its own commentary at certain points in the game, talking about how worthless and how stupid they find everything. You will see a stark difference in the game if you play this path. Unlike the Neuter route and Pacifist route, the monsters will actually fear you. All of the NPCs will leave the game map, so everything that you explore through will be just completely vacated maps, with nobody to talk to or interact with. The game music will slow down and it will have additional reverb, making it sound depressing and demoralizing. The few NPCs that you run into will actually hate you because of what you've done. The boss monsters will turn harder. Genocide, Undyne, still gives me PTSD. And since you're a heartless monster, you have to sit through a gut-wrenching death sequence for all of the boss monsters. The highlight of this route, if you have the goal to endure it, is that Flowey will reveal his deepest and more intimate dark thoughts. Asriel reveals that after his soul was implanted into the flower, he gained determination, and in a way he became nihilistic because of it. He discovered that he was able to reset the game because he was able to save like a human, and thus he did everything he could within the game because he just had to see what happened. Eventually he became bored of all of it after taking every possible action in the game, healing or saving or connecting or ignoring every character in the game. And he did all of this trying to reconnect with the feeling of satisfaction that being with his sibling used to give him. So at this point, he will invite you to join him in his twisted cause, just of course, to get killed ruthlessly by the human who has killed every other monster at this point. Surprisingly, Resident's love, Sans, will decide to spring into action to stop you at this point. This is what I love about this route. So you have this useless, stupid character who speaks in Comic Sans, who's like good for nothing, and then all of a sudden he's like, uh-oh, you shouldn't have messed with this guy. In battle, the game itself doubts him to be the easiest enemy with only 1 HP, and as he fights you, he will reveal his deepest feelings. He denounces that the player's action, arguably actively talking to the person behind the screen rather to Frisk, is causing rifts in space-time due to starting and collapsing of infinite in-game timelines by all of the Undertale players, something which actually happens every time that you reset the game. Sans claims that this is leading to the ultimate destruction of the world, and that if he doesn't stop you for good, providing one of the hardest matches in the whole game, you will proceed to total annihilation. He also claims to be incredibly depressed because of this whole affair, because since he is aware that he is only a character in a video game in an isolated timeline, it renders every action he takes in the game worthless. Everything could be reset at any given point. The implication of additional timelines and time-space paradoxes existing in the world of Undertale is important, because I think it ties into Deltarune, the game's sequel. That game is still in development though, so I'll see you when it actually releases so we can fully unravel all of the mysteries. If you're so determined at this point to still fight against Sans, you will meet Kara, Asriel's sibling. No, Kara is just a template. Kara is like an actual, it's just a fan-given name for this character. They're actually named after you. As I mentioned before, when you start a game, there's a name entry screen. Whichever name you actually enter here, that's their name, right? And this is the original fallen human, the human who fell to the underground before Frisk, and who the royal king and queen adopted as their own. First fallen child is revealed to be the puppet master of everything, who's been pulling the strings all along. This child is shown to be corrupted. They tell you that they want to discard and move on from this game, an action which actually reflects what happened to a game after you put it back on the shelf, I guess. The fallen child makes you an offer, or rather, they present you with the illusion of choice. You can destroy your save file in exchange of the final destruction of the world of Undertale, or you can choose to save the world. But whether you want it or not, Kara at this point will jump scare you and shut down the game by force. If you're actually playing on PC, the executable will actually close on its own, which is incredibly eerie. I love little meta details like this. Like, I find them incredibly creative, but who will think of a thing like this, right? So it was you all along who corrupted the world of Undertale, and your evil is so massive that you're able to close executable remotely. Like, oh, like, of course this is all make believe, but it's amazing. I love how it makes me feel. At this point, if you try to boot up the game again, silence, nothingness. The game is now unusable and impossible to play again. But if you wait for 10 minutes in nothingness, Kara will offer to bring the game world back at a price. Part 6. Undertale as an ARG. Undertale has an incredibly deep lore, which has not been unfolded in full even to this day, 6 years after its original release. What is an incredibly clever approach to game design, Toby left clues around in the game's files, because he knew that the game will be hacked and dissected for unused data or content post-release, as it happens with every other game that has ever existed. When you data mine the game will actually reward your dedication with a plethora of unused content, notes from the developer, and nuggets of information pointing towards possible developments in the Undertale world. One of the most important things that I can mention is the presence of an incredibly mysterious piece of dialogue from a character apparently named WD Gaster, who can be made to spawn randomly in your copy of the game depending on random events, the fun variable. A skull-like character that for some reason speaks in wingdings, presumably what WD stands for, who seems to be related somehow to Sansan Papyrus. There are cryptic notes suggesting that at some point he was involved with the research at the Determination Laboratory. We can but remain excited about what's to come with the eventual... Part 7. Determination. My final interpretation is that Undertale, the actual game itself, is the manifestation of the soul of Asriel. Your relationship with the game is your relationship to him, masterfully crafted by Toby Fox as a colorful, vivid, amazingly sounding tour de force. A testament to what indie games can be, full of secrets and wonders. The game wishes to be your best friend. Right now, it may be lying on a shelf or it may be installed somewhere on your computer, but if you listen closely, the game is trying to call you back into it. A little flower told me so. When you play the game, you bring a soul into it. What kind of soul or will are you bringing into it? This reminds me about, a little bit of Nietzsche. This is the part of the review where I pretend that I read Nietzsche. So, Nietzsche posits that existence is a manifestation of wills, right? So things like colonization or things like conflict, like all relationships in life, so it's a clash of wills, right? Where certain wills try to, to impose themselves. And the stronger will, the will that is more massive, that's the will that actually gets to manifest itself, the will to power. So Nietzsche argues that the will to power is the main driving force behind all of humanity. So determination is a version of that. So when you play Undertale, you bring with yourself a certain will. Oh, today I want to run a pacifist route because I want to be nice. Today I want to be evil. I want to bring violence and hellfire and brimstone. What is your will to power? What are you bringing into it? And what are you bringing into your actual real world? What kind of shape does your will have in real life? Those are questions that Undertale is begging us to ponder. So, besides this, the reason why I love the theme of determination that the game has is because teaching people about determination is kind of a lost art. When you try to achieve something in the world, you try once, and most likely you will fail. But what is determination? You recover, you go at it again. Think of a retro game. So what used to happen in the old days when games were harder to develop and when they actually had to, make them harder so people spent more time with them because content was like more expensive to create back then. What would you do with a retro game? Take Mega Man. So you're playing a certain stage. Sometimes you will not clear a certain stage for weeks. You will play through a certain part of the game, fucking hard, so you fail. Yet you pick yourself up and you try again. You play through a certain section of the game and you fail again at the same point. Yet you try again. And then you try over, and then you try over, and then you try over again. And sometimes you do this hundreds of times. Thousands of times. Sometimes you don't see the ending of the game for months, yet you power through it. That's determination, that's a strong will to power. And what happens one day, one fateful day, is that you finally clear the game. One fateful day after you've crunched a lot, you finally get to see the ending screen of the game. And that day is glorious and you love it. And you feel amazing after you achieve something like this because your determination is validated. This feeling of determination is what used to power games back then. Not so much these days. Not a lot of games decide to go this route. I like that Undertale sort of, brings it back to sort of comment on it, sort of ascribe morality to it. Something that I really like is that Toby explicitly has mentioned that the character design behind Undertale is inspired out of the fact that, he wants people to become friends with people who look different than themselves. And it's kind of poetic, so everyone is a monster in the underground, right? It's a different, weird kind of monster. Yet the human, they go around making friends with them. So this is kind of cool, right? I think that there's a lot to think about there. Final comments. What is your determination like? What is the shape of your will? When you come into the world of Undertale, what kind of will will you bring into it? Are you living in a certain world where maybe a barrier has been broken? Are you seeing new and novel monsters of different kinds living with you? Thanks for watching, everyone, and see you later.